Welcome back to Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally. This program is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You can use our code ADVICES for additional savings. Plus, it'll let them know that you support what we are doing here. I'm placing my order this morning for some pea protein isolate for Victoria. She can't use whey protein. It's the only place I've been able to find that has a good high quality pea protein isolate. Plus, even though I'm dieting and my carbs are restricted, I'm still using the MPA. That's the Matt Porter approved muscle intrusion. It's a highly branched cyclic dextrin, and you got some EAA, some other jazz in there. Really good product. It's been the best intra-workout that I've ever used, and I'm not just saying that because they sponsor the program, but because they do, I am purchasing it every month, and I'm using their products to say thank you for the support. Dave Crosland, you just got back from a military base today. What was up with that? Where were you?
Where was I? Nottingham, Chilwell, at a, hang on, military training and something else headquarters.
Okay.
It was all right. Yeah. Pissed it down, got so wet through.
Oh, it was. You said it had been raining. See, now you just did British talk there, but I'm starting to learn how to translate. You're saying it rained.
It pissed it down. It did. We were supposed to be in one auditorium, and unfortunately that had been double booked, so we ended up being another one that was right at the other side of the camp.
Okay.
So the CEO said, "Do you want to drive or shall we walk?" I'm like, "No, we'll walk."
Yeah.
Me doing all this cardio shit these days, like. So we walked up there.
Yeah.
Nearly got on, killed me. Didn't realise it was up a hill like that. Anyway.
Oh, man. Well, all the military guys were probably fine, right?
Yeah, definitely. I just fat, old, sluggish bloke, coughing and wheezing at the back, you know. And anyway, we finished, and about 15, 20 minutes before I finished the presentation, the heavens just opened. It was really? Literally bouncing.
Oh, my God.
So we set off back, and by the time I got to the car, I was literally drenched.
Yeah.
But, once you're wet, you don't get no wetter, do you, I suppose? So that was the end of it. And then just drove on.
That's
so
true.
It's not too far from me. It's only an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
And then home tomorrow and Thirsk on Thursday. And that will be my last military presentation for a month.
Okay. What was this presentation about that you did today?
Oh, it's drugs and alcohol awareness. We do a little bit of steroid and supplement. It's all in line with military policy and what you can and can't do. And
okay.
Alcohol management, alcohol usage management, things to look for, fail safes, that sort of thing. And then we go through drug misuse and spiking and what our policy is on certain aspects and stuff like that. And we cover CBD and weed and everything else. And then right at the end, they used to do an hour-long presentation on steroid and supplement misuse.
Yeah.
Now it's 15 minutes just tacked on the end, but it just explains what the Army policy is around it, what you can and can't do.
Okay. So you're not like telling them how to stack D-ball with a DECA or anything like that. You're just
no. In fact, I've got to be really careful because if someone messaged me on say Facebook or Instagram,
yeah,
and they're a squaddy, and they start talking about usage, I can't talk to them about it.
Really?
Because the problem is that they're not allowed to use.
Okay.
And I work through another company, but I effectively work for the CDT, which is the drug testing team.
Gotcha.
So if it ever came back that I'd advise the squaddy on what steroids to use,
yeah,
you can imagine the conflict of interest sort of argument that would come up with that. There'd be hell to pay. So
yeah.
I do get odd ones, and all I can do is give them the policy spiel and leave it at that because I just can't get involved.
What if one of these guys went to crosslands.org.uk and signed up there? Would that be that would work still, or?
We've had this come up actually.
Okay.
I was pulled about this in January. Apparently, some kid was I don't know if he was actually using gear in the army or he was looking to or whatever, but his commander was concerned. It may have even been supplements, but he was spending pretty much all his wage on this shit. And his commander was concerned and put in a complaint that he'd signed up to my website and I was selling him steroids on my website. So obviously they logged on to my website and saw that wasn't what it was about. So there was no big issue there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they can be, because the amount of red tape involved and bureaucracy with such a big governmental organisation, it can be a bit of a pain in the arse.
I could see that, yeah.
I mean, I got myself in bother last week for what was classed as a tasteless joke.
Oh, really? Can we hear it?
Well, you can hear the general gist.
Okay.
I went down to an area called ARRC, which is... It's what's called a tri-service base. So there's RAF, there's Navy, and there's military on this base. But it's also an international base. So there's somewhat ridiculous, like 20-odd different nationalities of soldiers there.
Okay.
So there's Canadian and American, there's Italian, there's German, there's all sorts. So they were all invited to this presentation. And at part of the presentation, we deal with consent, sexual consent. And I tell a story, and it's a true story about a lad who was not very blessed in the good looks department and got out one night, got pissed, pulled a lass who could only be described as way above his pay grade. She was quite a good looking girl and way above what would normally be where he was batting.
Okay.
The inevitable happened, and the next day she cried rape.
Oh,
and
God.
It was quite obvious that it was a regret rape scenario where she woke up, looked at him, and thought, "Fuck, how do I explain sleeping with him?"
Yeah.
Now, whether she was actually that pissed, she doesn't remember it happening, and generally thought it was rape because she'd never ever sleep with someone that ugly, or whether it was just a way to save face. I honestly don't know. But when it went to court, he was asked if she consented, and he said, "I don't know," because we were both pissed. As a result of that, he got 7 years.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, he got found guilty of rape because he could not. He admitted he didn't know if there was consent.
He was just being honest in the situation.
Yeah. And he is a very honest kid. And obviously, it's had a massive impact in his life.
For sure, yeah.
Now, what we do with these presentations is we look at science elements. We have areas that are quite challenging where we question people's own experiences. So particularly with alcohol, we will get them to remember the last time they were pissed, have a rough idea of what they drank, and then we'll tell them how long that alcohol stays in the system and challenge them on the fact that they probably drove the next day or did something of that nature.
Yeah.
So it can be a bit in their face at times. So what we do is to break it up, we punchline it with humour.
Yeah.
Now, British humour can be a bit off anyway to a lot of other countries' humour.
I love that about you guys too.
Army humour is even worse.
Okay.
So the British Army would think nothing about taking the piss out of somebody who's handicapped, who's female, who's black, who's white, who's pink, who's been raped, whatever it is. There is no touchy ground.
Yeah.
So the punchline to sort of, and the idea is you punch it with either a dramatic video or a dramatic point,
Okay.
or humour. And that punchline, whatever it may be, that impacting point of the presentation, basically pinpoints that information in the brain with a memory.
Yeah.
So you remember either the dramatic picture or you remember the challenge that you were presented with, i.e.,
Interesting.
about yourself, or you remember the humor that triggers what you were taught.
That's interesting. That's fascinating. This is like the psychology of giving a speech.
So this one finishes with, if you're ever out and she looks too good to be true, she probably is. Pick the ugly one. They're much safer.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see how.
That's close to the bone. But in a military audience,
Yeah.
that goes down like a wildfire. That really goes down like no tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that's close to the bone. And for civilian and for a lot of people, they would find that very distasteful.
Okay. Yeah.
But you've got to remember that this presentation is designed for the audience it's going to.
Right. Now, so somebody or multiple people complain about this?
So I, not thinking straight, and I should have looked at the audience and gone, these aren't squaddies. These generals, majors, captains, lieutenants, this is whole high ranking. This is an international. They probably won't understand British humor. I better pull that joke out. I didn't.
Okay.
A Canadian sergeant major and a Canadian colonel complained. She came up to me and complained herself, and she said she was very angry, and I was full of apologies and said there was no offense intended.
Wait a second. Let me ask you, would she have been the ugly one? I'm just curious.
No, she wouldn't. No,
she was a very beautiful woman. Okay.
Well, I would say she was okay.
I'm just wondering if she felt like, if it hit her personally, that
I think it hit her personally, but I think that may have been for other reasons.
Okay.
It's a very emotional response, but it was still valid. At the end of the day, I'm not there to upset people.
No, absolutely not.
I am there to challenge people's thought process when it comes to drug use and alcohol use, but I'm not there to upset people.
Of course.
And I appreciate that, so I apologized and assured her that it would be removed from the presentation forthwith, which it has been. I don't use it anymore.
Okay.
But she wasn't happy. And now we have a break point in the presentation. So this was at the break point, and she left and never returned. But the ironic thing was the Americans, particularly the two young girls that were at the front of the audience that must have been under 25, asked if they could have the presentation because they want to take it back to the American forces and put it forward to go throughout the American army.
No kidding.
As the drug and alcohol presentation. The Italian representatives told me they've been in the service for over 30 years and it was the best presentation they've ever seen in all their military life.
No kidding.
I got the best reviews I've ever had. So it was quite ironic that I got the worst review I've ever had, which is someone actually walking out of the presentation because they didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I got the best reviews I've ever had. And the feedback because we have feedback forms we fill in on site, and it's just like a check measurement. The feedback form that got filled in on the day was very good.
Okay.
But further to that, the unit actually emailed the head office and said it was quite literally the best presentation they've ever seen. A large percentage of the audience thought it was the best presentation ever proposed to them in the military, and several elements of the audience now want to take the presentation, want copies of the presentation, and want to take it back to their various countries and use it in their own military forces as their standardized presentation for drug and alcohol awareness within the force. Wow. So it was quite mad that I managed to absolutely and completely alienate the Canadians.
Yeah.
But everyone else loved it. Yeah. But you live and learn. I mean, the thing is with these things, you constantly try and evolve your presentations to keep it fresh.
Right.
Because if it gets stale to you, it will be stale when you present it.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that for sure. Just like if you go to see your favorite band play and you know that they've played that hit single 5,000 times now, it kind of loses its luster, that 5,000 in first time.
And one of the things about being a good presenter is being enthusiastic about what you do.
Sure, that makes sense.
Being enthusiastic in your delivery. If you're into it, then they'll be into it.
Here's what I think: we sell these foreign militaries on Dave Crosland traveling the world, and
I tried that one. I said I'll come to America quite happily. I'll do a tour of America.
I say we do that. I'll get an RV. We rent an RV. We travel the country. I will document you, Dave. We'll do drugs and stuff, the drugs and stuff tour along the way. Like we're heading over to like the Houston Air Force Base or whatever, and then we'll find like some place that we'll do like a live podcast event there too. After that, how's that sound?
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah, but yeah. So you're constantly developing and adapting these presentations as you go through.
Yeah.
And there'll be bits that you're not 100% happy with, and as you get more and more feedback, you'll start to alter it. And I mean, so that joke's gone. So now it ends with a discussion about no just means no and this sort of stuff. But
that's not as fun.
Well, you just got to constantly keep trying to evolve what you do. You know, if you let things stay static, they don't move with the times. You've got to respond to criticism.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with that criticism or not, you've got to consider it because it's your audience.
Yeah.
I mean, this woman was very upset. There was no denying she was very angry. But I had a couple of other officers come to me at the end and say that her commanding officer, there's only two of them, their words were along the lines of he's an absolute prick and a real pain in the arse, and they constantly butt heads over things.
Okay.
But still, it's not what you want at the end of the day.
No, if you can avoid that whole situation, right, you'd rather.
Yeah, I mean, if that bit hadn't happened, then obviously it would have been one of the best presentation days I've ever had when it came to feedback. Yeah.
And it just goes to show you can't please everyone. You know what I mean? Not everybody's going to enjoy what you're doing.
You listen, you learn, you adapt, you move on.
Well, hey, listen, we've got a bunch of questions here that I gathered up through this last week. I had posted a question thing on Instagram, like a question story, and we had a whole plethora of responses. So what do you say, Dave? We take a quick break, come back, and knock out some bodybuilding stuff. Welcome back to Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland. I'm Scott McNally, and we have a bunch of questions that I gathered up through Instagram. We still don't have a set place. I think what we're going to do is start a Facebook group for Advices Radio, so we can gather all our questions there, and you guys can ask. Because right now I've been gathering them through private message, and
so you're not bringing the forum back at all.
I don't think so, because the forum the only thing we used the forum for was just to gather the questions, and it was harder to get people to go there because you have to sign up. We don't have any benefit. It's not like we're trying to drive people to the forum to like get sponsors, to build that up or whatever. So I think Facebook would work just as well, and we'll probably actually get more questions that way too.
Yeah, I think forums are dying, aren't they? If they haven't already died, to be fair.
I think you're right. So to start us out, first question here. Let's see. High urea levels. What is high for bodybuilders? Do they mean kidney damage? And what about creatinine? Creatinine.
Upper range on urea is around 7.88, depending on whose blood work you're looking at. Certain labs have slightly different ranges, which I know sounds ridiculous, but they do. A common cause for urea being out of range, if it's just peaking over the top, is dehydration. Very, very common cause of slightly elevated urea. But urea is effectively ash from protein consumption.
So if you're eating more protein, that'll be higher.
Urea will be higher, yes.
Okay.
Creatinine, again, will elevate with protein, and it will elevate with creatinine use. In fact, most doctors in the UK, if you've got slightly elevated creatinine, will tell you to cut down your red meat consumption. These figures are generally very, very commonly out in people who train. Now, your EGFR within your blood work is the first and primary indicator of kidney function issues.
Okay.
So in the UK, it's got to be greater than 60. If it's 60 or just under, then you need to start taking note.
Okay.
That's not to say that you need to suddenly run around and panic like fuck your kids. The kidneys are falling out your arseholes. But you do need to start monitoring them, and you do need to start doing regularly either bi-monthly, or you'd probably get away with once every 2 months testing on your kidney function. But the first port of call, so say urea was slightly elevated, creatinine was slightly elevated, and EGFR was 59. So it's just below 60.
Yeah.
The first thing I'd do is look at your hydration, and not just look at your fluid intake, look at your salt and mineral intake as well, looked at your electrolyte intake. I had this recently with a client whose water intake was quite decent, but there were basically no salts and minerals going in. They removed them all out, thinking they were doing a good thing.
Okay.
And as a result, what was happening was flushing. So the water was going into the body and coming straight back out again. It wasn't absorbing into cells. It wasn't going where it needed to go because there was no sodium in there to help transport it. So if it's just around those borderlines, rehydrate. Look for anything that could obviously be triggering it. Drug-wise, your main culprit would be tren. That does have a direct impact on kidney function. And then if there is nothing else there, just retest and see where you are when you're fully hydrated. If it hasn't moved, if it hasn't improved, then's the time when you need to start talking to a doctor.
Okay.
Also, watch your BP, because one of the biggest killers of kidneys is high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So you've just got to keep an eye on things, and when things, don't be dismissive of things being just under range or just over range. It's still worth looking and addressing and double checking in a period of time that they are not getting any worse.
Okay.
Kidney failure does tend to just start slowly and build. And so with my own, I sat at 46, 48 for probably 3 years before I eventually tumbled down into the 20s.
And then once that happened, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When I did tumble into the 20s, it went fast.
That's what I was going to ask. Okay.
And my big argument with the doctors was they kept telling me that those numbers were normal for me. And bearing in mind at the size I wasn't exactly a normal patient for a doctor. So it was a bit, right, we're not sure what we do with this guy.
Yeah.
In retrospect, they weren't. I already had kidney failure.
Okay.
But it was just ignored.
Okay.
An argument that I'm still having now with the doctors about. Now, their big defense or argument on this is that once kidney failure starts, the general belief within medicine practice is that once kidney failure starts, that's it, it's done.
Yeah.
It's not going to get any better, and it will just progressively get worse. So their argument is it wouldn't have made any difference if they'd told me sooner or later, I would still be in the same position. But my kidney function's improving.
Oh, okay.
With using various supplements.
Okay.
So I've gone back with an argument now that, well, actually, I've improving my kidney function.
Right.
So if I was aware of problems earlier,
when it was at like 40,
I could have well got it back into range and probably not be in a position I'm in at all now.
Yeah.
But the argument ensues.
I know Carl Lenore wants to talk to you about some of that. He had some thoughts on supplementation, possibly peptides related to kidney health. So
there is a few. I mean, I did hear some good reports from BPC.
Really? Okay.
For kidney health, yeah. And there was something else as well, but I can't remember what it was. So there is some information out there about some peptide help, and glutathione's proved to be very, very effective in kidney support.
Okay.
And I will say this wrong, astrologus, yeah, you know that one, astrologus.
Ashwagandha?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hang on, I will or something along those lines, and it will bring me something up this close.
Oh, I lost you. Hold on, Dave. You're breaking up. You're very fuzzy today. I think this. Yeah.
The storm is probably playing havoc.
Yeah.
AST, RAGALUS.
Astragalus.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
I don't know how you say it either.
But you're using that?
I'm using that now, and that's had a very positive impact on my kidney function.
Okay.
So, liposomal glutathione brought my kidney function up by 7 points.
Oh, wow. Huh.
The addition of the Ester stuff has reduced my protein leakage from 1.5 grams, 2 grams,
Okay.
to 0.
Okay.
So now I ran both drugs separately, so I could see the impact of each one individually.
Yeah.
So now I've now gone on to injectable glutathione, and I'm running both drugs together.
Okay. How do you like the injectable glutathione? Have you had any testing since you started that?
No, I've only been on it for a week, so I won't do any testing for about another 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then we'll see where we are at that point with function.
Okay. Nice. I'm going to go to the next questions here. Let's see. Thoughts on taking orals like D-ball, Anadrol, T-ball every other day, or just on training days pre-workout opposed to every day?
As a singular drug or in a cycle?
I'm going to guess. I know this guy from social media, listener of the show. I'm going to guess it's in conjunction with a bigger cycle.
Orals do have a sort of pre-workout effect. It does tend to be very person and dose dependent.
Okay.
I used to get a very obvious pre-workout effect of orals if I was running quite decent doses, but they did have to be quite decent doses.
Okay.
So we'd be looking at sort of 100 milligrams range for me to noticeably see a difference within the workout.
Yeah.
They have a short half-life, which gives way to people thinking that they can be pulled in and out. And they can, but obviously in totality, it's the level that your androgens are elevated against the period of time that they're elevated for.
Yeah.
So if you run orals, say, only on training days, then you're going to reduce your overall androgen exposure, and as a result, you will gain slightly less.
Sure.
I wouldn't think it's going to be a massive impact. Yeah. I actually found that when I ran high orals as pre-workouts, it became a negative issue.
Really? What did you get from it?
The pumps were just so insane, I couldn't train properly. So I was finding I was cutting my workout short because my range of motion had got so poor.
Yeah.
Because I was literally so pumped.
Yeah. Like I have a guy I'm working with, he can't do squats now, like with when he's used orals, because his back gets so pumped. So he's better off to stay drier, than and be able to still continue to squat.
Mine was the actual muscle I was training. So it was very noticeable with arms, but it also with shoulders. And I'd get to the point where that would be the top of my lateral range because the shoulder was so pumped, or that would be as far as I came up with the bicep because the bicep was so pumped. And it ended up being, I was only doing half the range, which was just so counterproductive in training.
Yeah.
So the longer and the greater the androgen exposure, ignoring toxicity and things like that, then the greater the impact those drugs are going to have on growth. So by pulling oral in and out, you are going to reduce the effectiveness of your overall cycle. When it comes to oral only, that would be much more impacting on your progress.
Okay.
Because we don't have the greatest need for anabolics when we train. We have the greatest need for anabolics after we train.
For recovery, huh?
For recovery and growth.
Okay.
So if you're only putting your anabolics in around your workout window, you're actually restricting the anabolic availability for the period of time when you're trying to recover.
Sure.
So in saying that, though, in oral only, single dose is much more effective than microdosing.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that you just don't get your levels high enough off microdosing orals. So you will get much greater results off oral only cycles if it's a single dose, because your peak androgen levels will be so much higher.
Yeah.
than you would by microdosing, because your levels stay only slightly above or around top of range. So they don't go far enough into super pharmacological levels in order to promote really responsive growth, unless you are running very, very high doses.
Okay.
So if you were running 200 plus orals, then you could microdose them, because that overall dosing is going to be above range. But if you're in the 40 to 60 range and you decide to run that in 4 doses of 10 milligrams a day, you're just never going to peak your levels, blood plasma levels, high enough to go super pharmacological.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So if you're oral only, single dose. If it's oral with injectables, you can microdose if you want.
Now, when I had talked a lot to Jordan Peters, I know he was a very big fan of doing orals pre-workout. And specifically, he'd do it in periods of time when he was trying to like push through and break a plateau of some type, when he was, really grinding into a cycle. And the stuff that he would use was always like the real androgenic stuff, things like the methyltren, things like Halo, things of that nature, to really like blast through and get that extra strength.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get very immediate effect from those sort of drugs, but obviously those sort of drugs are also the most toxic ones you can use. Yeah. So it swings and roundabouts really with that, isn't it? I mean, things like M-Tren, Halo, check drops are all really more performance drugs. Yeah. Rather than anabolic growth drugs. Yeah. So, see, there is a theory, and it makes perfect sense on paper, that you would load with very high androgens pre-workout, so that you'd get a big performance boost in the gym pre-workout. Okay. And then you'd load on anabolics post-workout, so you get that build of recovery post-workout. So you pre-workout, you'd look at loading with very fast-acting androgens. The only downside to that is fast-acting androgens are very, very toxic. Because the higher the androgen level, effectively the more stress it's going to cause your body.
That makes sense. You ever use check drops?
No, I haven't actually. It's one of the few drugs I haven't. I don't think I have.
I haven't, no.
I've used M-Tren, didn't fucking like it, thought it was shit.
Yeah, really? You didn't get, is it that you didn't get much from it, or you just got side effects from it?
4 grams and got fucking nothing.
Oh, God. Superdrol, that's another one people really like pre-workout.
Now, I like Superdrol used with growth.
Really? What's the benefit there?
Superdrol is very good at drawing glycogen and water into the muscle. Okay. Growth obviously increases the retention of water in the cell. Two together, super, super full.
Interesting. Huh. Okay. I experimented now. Well, the last time I prepped, one of the things I wanted to do was see if I could maintain leg size, because I always felt that my legs started to look weaker. They're a strong body part for me, but they would start looking weaker with the more cardio I did, the more depleted I got, and they were harder to fill out. So one of the ideas was to try to keep them as full as I could through the diet, and not let them get depleted to begin with. So I began using Anadrol on leg day only. I feel like I did see a little bit of benefit from that, but I'm wondering if something like Superdrol would have been better.
Oxy's a really good pre-show if you're lean enough. Yeah. If you're lean, and you have to be proper lean, and you put oxys in, you'll come in full as a house and shredded. Yeah. But if you're carrying a bit of fat, you'll just smooth over.
It'll go to that too.
You've got to be lean for oxys to work. Yeah. You've got to be lean for oxys to work pre-show, but they do work very, very well. I know Lee Priest is a big fan of oxys pre-show.
I've never done it. I used them, like I said, it was just on leg day, so I didn't get like the full volumizing effect from them, as if I had used them every day going into the show. But I have never done it. I've heard exactly what you've said. I've known a lot of people that really do like them for that reason.
I mean, I was a big fan. I've always liked oxys. I found in my younger days they were very, very beneficial, and they didn't really touch my appetite. Yeah. But I found as I got older, I could, maybe because my eating became more crucial, as in I was pushing more food than I'd ever pushed in. Yeah. I found that my appetite did take a bit of a hit from oxys, but when I was younger, I'd never seemed to notice a thing off them that way. Just got big and strong off oxys.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've noticed in my life that my appetite has definitely, over the years, gotten poorer using orals. So if I'm dieting, I can handle, some Wingstrom, maybe some Halo at the end of a prep, but I don't run them really for any other reason. If I take the Anabol in the off season, and I've heard others say that it just kills my appetite within a few days. So I don't know if I've damaged things. I mean, my liver values seem okay. I'm healthy, but have I done something that's made me more susceptible to being, to those side effects? Is there something happening? I'm not sure.
I think the vast majority of people see at least some downturn in appetite from oral use, irrespective. I don't find many that say they don't touch their appetite in some way or form or other. Now, for some, it might not be an impact that's that noticeable or that impact that's problematic because they're not pushing the food at very, very high levels.
Yeah.
But when you start getting to the absolute limit of your eating, then even the smallest fraction of an impact on your appetite can be devastating to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at the next question here. During prep, would there be any benefit of switching to short esters, e.g. Test E to Test Prop, etc., or would staying with the same compounds still bring benefit if you're losing body fat? Thanks.
On paper, there should be no change. On paper, test is test, trend is 10, mast is mast.
Yeah.
Anecdotally, it does seem to help to run with water retention running the fast actors into the show.
Why do you think that is? Do you have a theory?
I think it's just to do with the turnover, the speed at which the hormone peaks and then starts to decay.
So you don't get as much of a build-up?
Yeah, because I've yet to see evidence to prove this in a scientific sense, but it seems to me that the more stable and elevated your blood levels are, the more you will aromatize test into estrogen. If your levels are quite peaky, you don't seem to get the point where the body catches up with the peak, so you aromatase at the trough level rather than the peak level.
Yeah.
Where if you plateau, over time you aromatize at that level, which is why I'm not a fan of overly stable bloods, because I think that irregularity helps your body just regulate things. I mean, we naturally bounce all over the fucking place in a day.
Yeah.
Our test levels can range as much as by 50% of our peak. So that's my working theory, is that because you get a more frequent peak and trough with a fast actor, because of the speed at which it degrades, that on your traditional every other day injection or every third day injection, there isn't the chance for the aromatization to really kick in to the same degree as it would if you were plateauing off a slow ester.
Also, it's not gonna, levels aren't gonna. Here's a theory I have, because I found, because I'll run a little contrary to you on this one, Dave, because I have found that using long ester test, at least as the base, any test would do going into a show. And I started shifting toward that for myself and with the people I've worked with, mainly because you can keep the dose pretty high while keeping the oil volume low. It gets difficult when you're closing it on a show, and then you're adding in Masteron, you're adding in Tren, and before you know it, you've got 3 cc's per shot. That's okay if you're doing it. It becomes a pain in the ass, I think, and it becomes
literally,
it becomes logistically an issue. Before you know it, you're doing bicep shots, tricep shots, lat shots, delts, rear delts.
The other problem as well is that you're obviously going to massively increase the risk of a bad shot.
That's true. Yeah. The more shots, the more volume. Yeah.
But then you see, for most people, I'd pull all injectables 10 days out anyway.
10 days. I'll run them right in, but I would want to stop maybe like Wednesday. That way you can, if anything does go bad on Wednesday, then you're more, and I would keep those at glute shots by large muscle, like a glute, but like that last week for those last 2 shots. But I think here's one thought that might be a reason why you could maybe look a little softer. So if, obviously if you're using Testy, we'll say at 500 milligrams versus Prop at 500 milligrams, that level is going to keep compounding upon itself and keep growing with the Testy. So your overall total, test is going to be higher.
Yes.
And you could become more mineral retentive. The more steroids you're on, the more you retain minerals. Therefore, the more water you could possibly hold. My thought has always been, and I learned it from Dave Palumbo. Palumbo was happy to run Sustanon with people all the way into a show, or any other long-acting test. But then using more AI to control estrogen, since you're going to have a higher, test level. So I've definitely been a fan of hammering the AI toward the end, as needed, to get somebody at moderately low end test levels, estrogen levels. And then, you just have to watch though with the diet, in order to keep somebody dry.
I think one of the problems is as well though with all this is in that how you approach your show very much depends on how lean you are.
That's true too.
If you're ready, as in you're properly ready, you can quite comfortably drop all injectables, put 50 mg of Anadrol in, come in full of a house, shredded to the bone, dries out, no problems whatsoever.
Sure.
If you're carrying fat, then you've got to start crashing your estrogen to try and squeeze as much of that water out as you can to make you appear as lean as possible.
Sure.
The downside to that is rebound.
Yeah, I can see that.
Post-show rebound. I've just been chatting to a guy over the last night who's just competed, was going to be competing again, and then he discovered that he's not doing too well. His blood pressure is astronomically high.
Oh God! Like what are we talking?
190s.
Oh my God!
190s to 90s of that end.
Okay.
So I've advised him that he doesn't pull all of his estrogen management out. He doesn't pull all his fat burners out because he doesn't want to have a rebound at this stage.
Okay. Because
if he starts holding water, he's going to push his BP even higher.
Yeah. So is he taking a blood pressure medication?
Yes.
Oh,
quite
wow.
a few. Yeah.
So he's running several blood pressure medications, plus he's still suffering with this. That's terrifying right there.
So it's in, and a lot of people were advising him to just stop everything. You can't do that. It's got to be a very managed withdrawal.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
We've dropped any of the fat burners that have an impact on heart. So we've dropped Glenn.
Okay.
But we've kept T3 in, so he doesn't have a complete rebound off the losing of the fat burners. He's got to keep his estrogen management in, and he's got to reverse diet. He cannot come off diet because he cannot afford to balloon in any way, shape, or form.
God, no. You could put on 20 pounds. That could kill the guy,
Literally, quite literally.
Is he a big dude?
Literally. 240.
So he's a big dude.
He's also definitely got some kidney issues going on, but I'm hoping they're just stress-based and not permanent, but we won't know for a while yet, unfortunately.
Okay.
But it scared him. It has scared him.
I bet.
And I mean, we do see, guys dropping post-show and backstage because of diuretics and poor water management, and we see guys, you don't hear about this often, but obviously I get it, is guys on rebound that have put 20, 30, 40 pound on post-show and are very close to giving themselves a heart attack because their blood pressure's gone through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
And they're within 3 days, they're 40 pound heavier.
Ankles are like, boom, that,
Yeah, everything's like that. And they're struggling to move, they're struggling to breathe. And what a lot of people don't realize, that struggling to breathe isn't a cardio impact. That struggling to breathe is your heart struggling to beat.
Yeah.
That's what causes that shortness of breath. That's what's causing your problem. Because you've gained rate so rapidly, your blood pressure has gone through the roof and your heart is struggling to pump strong enough to fully oxygenate your body. That's why you're suddenly struggling to breathe. So rebounds are dangerous. And a lot of people don't realize how dangerous they can be.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary. Let me see here. I'm going to look to see what else we have here. Another drug question. We got a bunch of drug questions here.
I wonder why.
Maybe the show title, does that have anything to do with it?
I have no idea. We don't get any in relationship questions anymore.
You know what? I haven't asked for any. We'll have to do that. We'll have to do that for the next episode. We'll have to look for some Dear Davies.
Okay.
Difference between Masteron and Primobolin and dosage.
Price.
What are your thoughts on Primo overall? Do you think it's a good compound? Do you think there's anything different, like any more? Because I've heard of some people using Primo, they'll say, oh, you can use that for your off season or for a cut. What do you think of something like Primo as your off season go to?
Very mild drug, very gentle drug on you as a person. Side effect wise, stress on the body.
Yeah. But
if it's the real thing, you can make some decent gains off the back of Primo. Yeah, there's no denying that. But it's not going to be. You're not going to see massive 30-pound off-season bulks with Primo.
Yeah.
Well, not unless you're getting incredibly fat because you're eating far too much.
Yeah.
You know, it's a solid lean gainer. It's a lovely little drug, very low impact. And there's not really much wrong with it apart from the fact that it's not always easy to get the genuine article.
Mm. And that's because buying a kilo of Primo is going to be like, I can't remember the difference, but we're talking.
Expensive.
Do you know what we're talking about per kilo, what that runs for?
Not at the moment, no. It wouldn't take me long to find out, but
because I want to say it's the difference of like test being like, we'll say 5 to Primo being like, 35K, something like that.
Yeah,
I made that number up, by the way, but it's ridiculously different like that.
It is one of the most expensive raw powders there is, without doubt.
Yeah,
without doubt. Masteron is effectively a poor man's Primo.
Yeah. I like Masteron and Enanthate.
It's a little bit harsher. Obviously, Masteron has the added anti-estrogen properties in it.
Yeah.
It is a little bit harsher. They're both DHT based. Neither of them are aromatized. But it's just really a poor man's Primo. It's the easiest way to describe Masteron. I
had, I'd never used Primo for a long time. This is back when I was using a lot of gear, and I followed what I had seen on the message boards. Guys, would always say on the message boards, 10 years ago that Primo was very weak, that you need to run a lot of it to get an effect. And so guys were running like 700 milligrams to a gram. And I started at 700 for about 2 weeks. And I was like, you know what, this is really strong. I don't need that much. I went down to 6. I went down to 5, went down to 4. I ended up going to 300, and I really liked it at 300. And honestly, if I were to ever do something like that again, that's what I would use it at, would just be like 300 milligrams. So,
if it's the genuine article, 300 to 400 should yield some noticeable results.
I like that.
Off season, potentially maybe push it a bit if you're trying to get a lot of size on, so you probably touch up at 600. I don't think going to 8 or the gram is really cost effective.
Sure.
I think if you're going to push Primo to those sort of doses because you're wanting a greater effect, you'd be better looking at other compounds.
Yeah, or combining something. I've always been a big fan of the synergy. I feel like synergy is better than any given single compound by itself.
Well, you're raising your total anabolic and androgenic profile, are you, but not always raising the same stress factors.
Right.
Because obviously different drugs have different impacts on different areas of the body. So you can raise your overall anabolic profile, androgen profile, but actually have a lesser overall peak in stress factors because they're affecting different areas of your body in different ways.
Yeah. And then Masteron? What do you think of Masteron enanthate versus propionate, just out of curiosity?
Not really looked at the two in that way. I mean, Masteron as a compound, I quite like it. It's quite a nice little drug. It's quite a tidy little drug. Only thing you've got to be careful is running it as a single compound because obviously estrogen can get too low and inhibit growth. But I've never really seen much, apart from injection frequency, never really seen much issue with any difference between the nth or the prop, to be honest.
Yeah. I remember, once again on the message boards, there was a guy I looked up to. He was a national level bodybuilder. And I had asked him, because I had used Masteron propionate before. I said, what do you think of Mast E for my next contest prep? And he said he felt that, you know, although it shouldn't make a difference, he felt that he didn't get quite as dry on Mast E. But in my personal experience now, I found that I did. And I would say that, and I've seen that with, and that's usually what I suggest it. I suggest Mast E to people I've worked with, mainly because of the volume. You know, if you get 200 milligrams per milliliter, then you can take half as much, you know, oil.
The other problem as well with all this comparative is that we're dealing with UGLs.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, that vial of Mast E that's 200 milligram might be 120 this week, and it might be 190 next week.
Sure.
And the Mass Prop might be bang on every week, and so you can't really compare. It's very difficult. I mean, the science says that there should be no real difference whatsoever because it's just the same compound.
Right.
The only difference is the speed at which it degrades in your body, and a slight difference in the speed at which it peaks.
I do think it makes a difference, though, like I was saying, because if you build esters, because if you build the compound up higher, then you're likely to have other issues, like I was saying, like mineral retention with more steroid.
Well, I'm meaning if your overall intake of hormone is the same.
Oh yeah. Well, even if it was, let's say we took 100 milligrams of prop versus Mast E every other day.
Yeah, that's not the same hormone intake, though, is it? Because you're not accounting for the retention of the Mast E.
You mean because you're getting less Masteron enanthate due to the longer ester?
But you're getting more because it's staying around in your system.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to compound. That's
yes.
What I'm saying. So
I see.
That's not milligram for milligram the same. You might be taking 100 milligrams of Mast E and 100 milligrams of Mast Prop, but because of the ester length, the buildup of Mast E is going to create an overall greater level of compound. I'm talking about actual compound levels in blood plasma being maintained the same.
You go. Okay, I could totally get behind that.
There should be no real difference.
Yeah.
According to science.
Right. Oh yeah, I think how would we do that though? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? How would we figure? I guess it'd have to be a lot. You could do it with testosterone and blood levels then, but it'd take a while, I'm sure, to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think it would be too difficult. You'd get there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be within 10, 20 meg of it, I would have thought, with just a few calculations. It wouldn't be too overly difficult to work it out.
You're probably right. All right, let's see what else we got here. Ooh, it looks like a DNP question. Probably way out there, using insulin in combination with DNP.
Dickhead.
Farah was regarded for this way back.
Why? DNP stops our ability to process carbohydrate. Yeah. Well, it stops the ATP. So it's going to have some level of effect, particularly residual on insulin spikes. In fact, it would be actually nice. If anyone's ever tracked their BG on DNP, please let us know.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, definitely. Drop us a message. Post it up on this show when we post it.
I would really like to see how DNP affects BG levels. I am assuming it's going to reduce them slightly.
Yeah, or drop me a message personally, just a DM. I'd like to hear that.
And if it does, then you definitely want to be very careful adding insulin into that mix.
Yeah.
Because your insulin sensitivity is going to change dramatically. And technically, in theory, your insulin sensitivity could change dramatically anyway because you're effectively zero carbon.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a crazy one.
I see that fraught with problems. But if anyone has run DNP and monitored the BGs, if anyone's diabetic and they've run DNP, I would really like to know how you found it impacted your insulin use.
Victoria, my girlfriend, and she's a researcher, and she understands a lot about the drugs we use in bodybuilding. She is vehemently opposed to DNP altogether. We actually got into a discussion yesterday. We could almost make it into a Dear Davey question while we were doing cardio post-training. And I talked about having used it. And she was like, well, I didn't realize. Because I used it twice.
Hang on a minute. If you can talk during cardio and training, you're not doing it fucking hard enough.
A slow, steady state. It was after legs. And I had used DNP years and years back for a couple weeks. I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks maybe, and I used it at like 500 milligrams. Actually, I think it was 400 for 2 weeks and then 500 for the third week. Then I used it again, but I forgot when I told her I'd used it. I forgot I had used it again 2 years ago. And so when I mentioned I had used it months back, I was like, yeah, I'd used DNP once. And then I was talking about using it the second time. She's like, I didn't realize you used it a second time. She was like, hold on a minute, almost like who's this bro that I'm talking to here? But she's vehemently. Did I get what?
Did you get a waggy finger? Did you get a waggy finger?
I did, yeah. Because she started telling me.
Disapproval.
She does not like it at all. She was telling me how it destroys mitochondria. Like basically, you are breaking your body down in ways that you will never get back. And we see guys that aren't experiencing any issues now, but like think about Tony Huge, who's talked about he's run it a lot. He's gotten a lot of other people interested. I've known a lot of followers of enhanced athlete that have used DNP as their main fat burner to get into shape nowadays. It's scary, isn't it?
I am seeing problems in users now that I didn't see 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think we will continue to see new problems arising from long-term use of certain compounds that we just haven't comprehended yet. So I think our conversations in 5 years' time will be markedly different to our conversations now. And I think the way we look at drugs and the way we use drugs will be markedly different in 5 years' time. I really do. We seem to have gone from, you go back to the 80s and drug use was generally quite low and quite basic.
Yeah.
There were exceptions, there will always be exceptions, but it's got more and more complex and more intense and more intense. But now we're starting to see more and more negatives associated with that. We're starting to see a rising number of bodybuilders with heart attacks, a rising number of bodybuilders with kidney issues, a rising number of bodybuilders with long-term health problems, and a rising number of bodybuilders with mental health issues, anxiety and depression. And I think that will continue to rise until it peaks. And it will be that peak that then drives a change in drug usage. And people will completely change how they approach these drugs and will start looking at it from a much lower dose angle, and certain drugs you just won't see much of anymore.
You think?
I do.
I would hope so, man. But then, without pushing to the extremes, can athletes still reach because at the end of the day, what's it about? I mean, bodybuilding, as a sport, we're trying to do, you look at like the guys are always progressing. I can't imagine the physique's actually taking a step back,
No, but I don't think it's particularly about progression. I don't think the biggest guys have got any bigger. I don't think the leanest guys have got any leaner. I think the number of people capable of achieving that has increased.
Okay.
Because the people that did it before were very genetic led.
Okay.
Now, the increased use of generalized high doses of drugs and fat burners has allowed people that don't have the genetics to previously achieve that size and condition now achieving it.
I see.
So we see more of a higher level of athlete. We see more of a higher level of mass in athletes because more people are capable of achieving it because of the higher level of drug use.
Yeah.
But I think when we then start to see the effects of this in the next 5+ years, that will change people getting into it at that point's perception. And we will still see big physiques. We will still see super shredded physiques, but there'll be those that are genetically predisposed to that more than those that have used drugs to circumvent their genetic profiles. But I also see that driving changes in drug development.
What do you mean?
And well, I think we will see that holy grail of myostatin suppressants coming more available and to some level of successfully developed.
Okay.
My understanding is that research isn't that far away.
Okay.
So I do think within the next 5 years we will see a new round of wonder drugs when it comes to muscular growth.
That soon, huh?
That work on a completely different level to anabolics. And I think that we'll see people jumping on DNA manipulation and myostatin manipulation in a lot bigger way.
I could see that. You think 5 years, though? You think that soon, huh?
Maybe longer for it to be more commercially available, but I think within 5 years we should see quite a successful myostatin product in development, yeah. Yeah.
The guys at Oxygen Gym will have it first, I'm sure.
I think some of the big pharma companies are already very close.
Yeah.
I'll need to have a chat with a mate of mine who's a pharma research and new development drug tester to see what he's heard. But last time I spoke to him, he was of the opinion it wasn't far away.
Yeah, let me know if you do speak to him. I'd be curious to hear what he has to say. Or if that's somebody that'd be willing to come on the show and talk it all, that'd be fun too.
Yeah, actually, I never thought of that. I'll ask him.
All right.
Yeah, he's a good lad. If I can nail him down, I'm sure he'll come on.
All right. We actually have a bunch more questions here. I got through one page. We have a whole additional page. So I'm going to hold all those questions for the next episode. Thank you guys, everybody who was posting these questions. I am going to throw in one more here, though, to end on. Scott and Dave's favorite meal. Now that Dave has left behind the days of under construction. Dave, what's your favorite meal? I know you like your tea and cakes, but that's not a meal.
No, to be honest, I've not got a major sweet tooth.
You've talked about. Can I guess something?
Go on.
You've talked about going out for like a very fancy. I don't know if it was steak, but like a meat-based meal. You went to that. It was like a carvery type place that you went to with the wife. That sounded like you were very excited about that.
That would have been the Argentinian all-you-can-eat meat restaurant. Yes.
How does that rank for you?
Yeah, no. My favorite meal? I don't suppose I have one favorite meal. There's a few depending on where I am in mood-wise and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually, at certain times, definitely really like beans on toast.
Beans on toast, did you say?
Yeah, baked beans on toast.
I've never had that before.
I don't know if you have. Do you have baked beans in America?
We have baked beans, but I've never heard of baked beans on toast before.
Tomato sauce based bean.
Yeah.
Cheese on toast is another one. Big cheese fan. Really like my cheese. So you say cheese on toast, so you don't do like we do grilled cheese where you put butter on the bread? Yeah. Is that what you do? Well, if you're doing it right, you put butter on the bread, yeah. So what you do is you toast in the grill, you grill one side, it's toasted.
Yes.
Turn it over, you butter it.
Yes.
Then you put the cheese on, and then you put it under the grill until the cheese melts all over the toast.
Yes.
That's the proper way to do cheese on toast.
I like the sound of that.
And if it works really well as if you use a couple of different cheeses.
Okay.
So you start with a cheddar base, and then you might put some Parmesan or something over the top in shavings, and then grill that. And if you're a real sneaky bastard, you finely chop onions or tomatoes or something else, put them down first, and then put the cheese over the top.
That sounds good. I'm looking at there's this restaurant. There's a restaurant I want to go to. It's called Anna's House. My mom gave me a gift certificate for it for Christmas this last year, and I still haven't used it. They have my favorite. Hold on a second. I'm going to pull up a picture.
I want to do a food cruise of America.
Oh, yeah. That'd totally be great.
Yeah, I want to get a big RV and do like 3-4 weeks. Maybe do Route 66.
Oh, yeah.
Based on restaurants. Nothing else, just based on restaurants.
That would be fun.
Diet down to 200 pounds and come back to 300 pounds.
Break 415 maybe.
Yeah.
Here's my favorite. I'm putting it up for the viewers of the video. Red velvet pancakes. They rank right up there. I'm a big pancake guy, but especially red velvet pancakes. Dave, have you had red velvet pancakes before?
Pancakes isn't really a big thing over here.
Really?
Not in the same way it is in America with all the different flavors.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've had pancakes, but they've been the sort of traditional plain ones. We have pancake day over here.
Ooh, I like the sounds of that.
If I get this right, and I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, that it was originally, I think it's Shrove Tuesday, and it was originally to use up flour and milk and eggs that you had.
Okay.
So, but traditionally, you make a pancake batter and they serve with either sugar or it was either honey or they were the main two, or lemon juice were the main sort of three toppings traditionally. As time's gone on, obviously, we're seeing chocolate spread and bananas and whipped cream and strawberries and all sorts go into those mixes. But but traditionally, that was, and you had pancakes on that day every day of the year. Now, as cuisine's got more international, we see more restaurants offering pancakes and more creperies being around, but it's just not to the same level as it is in the States. The same with like cupcakes. We have them, we have a wide variety of them, but they're just not to the same level you see in the States.
We have actual shops that just sell cupcakes.
I know. My wife loves watching like diners, drive-in and dives and those sort of programs.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never had a red velvet pancake. I've had red velvet cake, but I've never had a red velvet pancake.
Very similar. Yeah, very, very similar. Very sweet, even sweeter than a traditional pancake. Crepes. So those come from France. Have you ever been to France by chance?
Yeah. Well, it's just a pancake. It's just a French pancake.
Is it
it's thinner. It's
how is
not
it?
As dough.
I hear I've known guys that have traveled to France for business, and they have a hard time finding protein there. There's everything there is just breads. Just to get eggs is a hassle sometimes, I've heard.
Never had an issue. No. I mean, yeah, there is a big patisserie, cake and bread sort of culture in France, definitely.
Yeah.
But never had a problem getting meat, and you can even get horse meat because they have charcuteries, which are horse butchers.
Oh, wow. Is that good?
Yeah, lean and very high protein.
Wow, I never thought about eating horse before. Huh. Something to consider for the future. All right.
We had a bit of a scandal over here where one of the major supermarket chains ended up with horse meat in their burgers, and everybody was jumping up and down about it. And I'm like, I don't know what you're complaining about. It's better quality fucking meat.
Really? Huh. I had no idea.
Lean, very high protein, yeah.
People, I guess, just don't want to be eating horses. So what ended up happening? It actually was. They were putting horse meat in their food?
No, I don't think it was deliberate. I think there was, obviously, beef burgers are made up with, all sorts of different meats depending on what level of beef burger you're buying.
Right.
And I just think it was a sourcing mistake rather than it was a deliberate con.
Oh, I see.
It was just an issue within sourcing. I mean, I can't remember the details exactly, but I think it was just down to the fact that meat had got mislabeled.
Yeah.
Being then sent to be made into burgers, and it was actually horse meat.
Which is also how sometimes we end up with Prop versus Primo, right?
Yeah. No, that's deliberate.
Not always, but yeah. All right. Well, thanks for all your insights, Dave. It's always a pleasure. And guys, for another episode of Drugs and Stuff with Dave Crosland, I'm Scott McNally. Go and check out our sponsor, TrueNutrition.com. You can use our code ADVICES. Go to check out davecrossland.org.uk. Of course, Dave has his own YouTube page. Check him out there. Add him on social media, Facebook and Instagram. This show, if you're watching it live, will be out very soon. Check it out at advicesradio.com for the audio, iTunes as well, Stitcher, any of your favorite podcast apps, and YouTube for the video. Dave Crosland, it's a pleasure, my friend.
As always, mate.